Yake family and greetings everyone. Oh my God, what a blessing to see you all here. First of all, I'd just like to give a massive shout out to Leah, the team, Eva, Eddie. Haven't met you in person, but it's so awesome to see you all. I'm along with our team from AAF, Red, and also Ali and whoever jumps on from the African family. My name is Ernestina Pukuya Bonzu Maro, proud Ghanaian and Aucklander. From Kamakamakota Africa Week. This is the initial start for it. It's been in the works since 2019. We're blessed to be around people to bring this vision to life along with your platform.
Yes, I'm Eddie. So I'm based in Wellington. So yeah, I'm one of the co-hosts of the BlackHouse. So I'm involved in that since I moved up about 6 months ago. Yes, I'm based in Wellington. I was originally from down in the South Island. So from the deep dark south, and so aside I'm working up here up in Wellington, and do a bit of DJing on the side occasionally. So it's a bit about me, and real stoked to be involved and be a part of this whole thing.
Awesome. And Nanny.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Nani, Nani Mahal. I have been living in New Zealand for about 20 years now. I have been very disconnected from the African community, and I'm looking to fix that. So I'm excited to meet you all. It's been wonderful working with Leah and getting to meet members of the community. And I'm excited to take part of Africa Week and any events in the future moving forward. What am I excited about? I'm an illustrator and a cartoonist, and I have been for about as long as I've been here. And I dance and sing, like to entertain. Other than that, not much to say. Just happy to be here.
Thank you for that. Okay, we're going to start at the top of the table here. I'm going to go up to Isaac.
Hello. I'm Isaac. I'm Blenheim based. I was raised here. Raised here, but I was born overseas. Parents met in the UK. Neither of them are from the UK. That's just where they happen to be. And my dad's African American. He's from Philly, East Coast, and my mum is New Zealand Pakeha. And I've spent most of my life in Blenheim, and I'm currently based here. But I've spent at least a quarter of my life in Wellington and in the United States, mostly East Coast. Pretty much mostly East Coast. And at the moment, I'm mostly just paying off a nice car. But other than that, I'm kind of, I guess, recovering from like study and overseas travel, and just having a lot of fun and just living life and connecting with people at the moment. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Octavius.
Kia ora. Hey everyone, I'm Octavius Jones. I am African American. I was born in Los Angeles, California. I got to New Zealand in 2019, and I was supposed to start my PhD in 2020, and I did, but I got stuck in America for a year. So I was able to get back around March of this year. And so, I'm a PhD student at Victoria University in Wellington, and I'm based here in Wellington. And I'm also the Wellington lead for Black Creatives Aotearoa as well. And working with a few other organizations like the Moana Project, because some of my interests are around conservation and the African diaspora and climate change and what's going to happen to our communities. I started my training for the New Zealand International Film Festival today. So I'll be helping with that in the Wellington area too. So because I like film. Nice to see everyone. I love seeing all these Black people though, because they didn't talk about y'all when I was looking at all the brochures and stuff. They were like, "You'll be alone," and I was like, "Man, okay, I'll survive." But no, I'm not alone. And glad that I'm a part of this family too. Thanks.
You're not alone. There are plenty of Black people here.
Thank you very much, Octavius. Eva.
Hi, I'm Eva. my background is like exactly the same as Isaac's. My parents met in the UK, even though neither of them were from there. My mum's Pakeha and my dad's Ghanaian. I was raised in Palmerston North and then moved to Wellington, and now I'm Dunedin based. Just been down here for studying, which I've now finished, but I'm gonna stick around and just do nothing for the next half year, which would be nice.
Thank you very much, Eva. Clint, quick introduction. Unmute yourself, darling.
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Clint. I'm quite tired. Just finished work. What about myself? I was born in Kenya. My parents are from Sudan. Came to Aotearoa when I was such a little girl. Been living here 18 years. I'm Wellington based. I'm also part of the Aotearoa African Foundation as well. And I do a lot of things in the African community. So that's me.
Thank you, Clint. You forgot to mention Black Elite. You've also got Black Elite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were part of Africa, the Aotearoa Africa Foundation. You should have been in the first round. Sorry. Okay, and our youngest one today is Sahara. Unmute Sahara and give us a quick introduction.
Hi, my name's Sahara. I am 13 years old. I'm based in Aotearoa, but I was born in Invercargill. I am Zimbabwean, Tongan, Samoan, and Tukaloan. And I'm the Black Youth Ambassador for Black Creatives of Aotearoa. And at the moment, I'm just navigating my way to high school.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes, eh? What I'd like to hear, and I'll go around the room. What I'll do is just call out your names each, and you give us your feedback on those two questions that we posed. Say about 5 minutes worth, yeah. And so for those watching who'll be watching this later, I'll just read out the questions that were posed, the brief that was posed. So the first question was, how does the Aotearoa African Foundation's Africa Week 2021 online inspire you? And what does it mean to have a week where where we can celebrate an entire week, where we can celebrate Africa, the Africa diaspora in Aotearoa? And the second part of the question was futurescaping the African diaspora experience in Aotearoa. What does that mean to you and for you as part of this diaspora down here in New Zealand? And what would it look like? What does it feel like? What would you like to see in place? And how would it be different than today? I'm going to start with Red at the top there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And for me, it's having Africa Week inspires me a lot. It gives me a sense of belonging in New Zealand and a sense of existence as well. As I said before, that there are other ethnic groups have this large celebration of their identity. So to me, it's a celebration of identity that we can celebrate our people together, as the theme suggests, that celebrating our people as one. So it's an opportunity where we can come together as every African in New Zealand can be proud to be like, okay, this week we are celebrating it's Africa. So it's African content and African languages, your language at work, you can share with your colleagues. This is how you say this word in my language. If your workmates have never heard even anything from your language or have no idea about something of where you come from, your identity, this is an opportunity for them to be able to learn at least food or music, culture, something from where you come from. So it also gives an opportunity for inclusion, inclusion and diversity in New Zealand, where we become visible as well. It's an opportunity where we become visible, because there's some places of New Zealand where they never even heard about African countries or anything, any information about Africa, or even seen Africans. So an online platform gives that opportunity, because on our screen, anyone can come across this type of information. And also, most importantly, our young people as well. Sometimes information that they get about Africa, it's disempowering, it's poverty, things that can push a young person not to identify with African heritage, or not to want anything to do with it because it's negative. So we're bringing positive content, we're bringing positive information, so informative sort of information about countries of Africa. So the theme this year is celebrating our people as one, and it's inspiring to me. So I hope it also inspires every African or New Zealanders of African heritage, and those born here as well, and also just the New Zealand public to learn a little bit, just a little bit, about Africa and African countries. And the Africa is not just one place, it's a continent. Africa have different countries, 54 countries, and about 1,000 languages. This is an opportunity. So I also feel like as Africans, we have a responsibility to teach them, to put this out to the New Zealand audience. Otherwise, we cannot blame them if they don't know. Yes, some people will say, oh yes, but we live in an era where there's technology. It's their responsibility to go and learn. There's internet and everything like that. But sometimes people are not inspired. The people are not go and look for it. But if it just pops out on your screen and you're learning over there, you can get some information that you never heard before, no matter where you come from in New Zealand. So it's a joy for me. It's inspiring. I'm so happy. I'm delighted to be sharing this. So the futurescaping, I see for young New Zealanders of African descent to be proud, of the heritage, to be able to speak about the heritage, to be able to be curious, search what it's like, not to build the reality of Africa from mainstream media or from what they've seen on TV, from ads, but for them to have a taste themselves, to smell it, to hear it, to be curious, to go have a look for themselves. What is Africa? What's the other side of Africa, even from here? And embrace the language, to be like, what I think is, be proud of where your parents come from, be proud of your heritage, be proud of where your mother come from, be proud of the language, regardless of what is thrown out there, be proud of it, speak it, say it, and be proud of your hair, your skin color, your difference. Because being African in New Zealand, it means you're different. And being different, so when you're different, it's so easy to be isolated. It's so easy to be seen differently, to be treated a certain way. So you use your difference, to make a difference. So you just embrace your difference, and use it. That's the way they say. So I see a future of New Zealand where African identity is accepted, is embraced. It's embraced within the wider public. So that's it, I think.
Right. So I guess the way this inspires me is that it actually makes me want to be a part. The more things like this occur, the less weird it feels. I probably should have mentioned this in my introduction, but the way I met Edward and essentially ended up here was I reached out to Barika, who's a part of the Black Creatives Aotearoa, as I'm sure you all know, or probably are familiar with. And I reached out to her to find people of color to play Dungeons and Dragons with, as nerdy as that sounds. And at first it felt weird because I've never made a group looking for people of color before. I've never really had to, because I've lived in the United States or in Wellington, where, the societies there are just, there's more representation. But when I came back to Blenheim and started working and paying off loans and spending time with my family here, I realized there's not a lot of people of color here, so I'm going to have to ask. And so things like this reinforce the idea that, like, yeah, you can reach out and ask to, hang out specifically with Black people and not come from a place of, like, I'm not saying I want to shun others, but it's like it shouldn't feel weird to seek people of color out in a place where we're not overly well represented. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It was just kind of missing the sense of, what I took for granted overseas in the United States, especially getting to spend, some significant amount of time with all my Black relatives. It was like kind of discovering a whole new part of me that I never really got to have a connection with, because even though we've got the internet and this sort of thing, one, not everyone has access to it, and two, it's just not the same. It's just not the same. So yeah, things like this are nice, and it's like it's good to reconnect with that side of myself. So I've grown up here. Pretty much all my relatives here are white, but mum's always had my back. And I've seen like a few, I guess I could say, bed bugs that definitely exist in New Zealand with regards to how they deal with people of color. But overall, it's been a pretty, haven't had to be confronted with anything too shocking or horrible. But I think the future looks a bit more like this, but with high resolution. So like this, but with more pixels, better camera, more better equipment, but also just doing more of this, being more aware of events that are coming up, and just not feeling like it's weird anymore, that it is normal and a good thing to do as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, I want to go to Eddie now. Eddie, tell me, what do you think of those two questions I posed in that book?
Yeah, so I guess the first question, like, I think at a base level, it's just great to have more spaces to kind of celebrate like Black and African descended like cultures, because yeah, like similarly to Isaac, like more back, and I should have brought out my intro. I was born in the UK. Like my dad's Jamaican, my mum's white. And then, so I moved over. I grew up in Southland. Like, before I turned kind of 18, I think I'd met 3 other Black people my own age. So it's one of those things where it's just one of those things where I never grew up. And over the past kind of 5-6 years, it's been like this crash course of like involvement. And I think that's what this thing for me is. Suddenly it's like, it's made me realize how much I love being in these spaces and how much I really value having Black friends. And yeah, having those kind of spaces there. So I think that's the big one. Is like, I think it's just such a great place to have regular kind of discussions and a celebration of. And I think it's funny, like for an Africa Week, like I think what you were saying, Red, I think we have to have an Africa Week because there are just that many African and African descended cultures. Like you couldn't have an Africa Day. You have to have an Africa Week. There's too many of us.
Yes, absolutely. Even the whole month.
And then yeah, in terms of futurescaping, like my initial thought I just went to was like, yo, Black space program. But nah, like in the back of my head. But no, like honestly, I think for New Zealand, I think part of it is I want to see, I think like community hubs. I think there's a lot of ways in which you could go about that, whether that's like dedicated like community centers, but like
yes,
also like
African community hub, the African village center.
And then but I think the other one is I think like I'm watching, there's a really cool series that I've been watching from the UK called Small Axe, and it's the kind of history of Afro-Caribbean people in the UK. And there's the first episode is about this restaurant called the Mangrove, and then essentially it becomes in London, and it becomes this kind of hub for, it's set up by a Trinidadian family, and then it becomes this kind of central point of community hub, and it becomes this really big point in Black rights in the UK. And that's the thing I always really like the idea of, is restaurants and places like food places being these kind of really big community centers. Like I really like the idea of going to a restaurant, like, and then like, so Wellington, we just had a Jamaican food joint open up. All the BlackHouse team went there on Saturday, and it was good because it was just nice because there were like a couple other tables with other Black folk around, and it was just nice because even like you didn't really know each other, or like you could just have like little conversations, and it's just nice having that space in those community spaces. So I think those are really good kind of that's something I'd really like to see, is like more, and I think for also be like great, like more African Black businesses, but also those, I think businesses also become spaces for the community. And I think the other thing I think would be really cool to see is just I think is language classes. There's a big thing for me, like where, and I think there's such a diverse range of languages. You could almost set up like an entire language school. Like you could sort of like, I think that's something that is really cool to see, and I think that's something that in the next 10-15 years I'd really want to see, is this real push to set up these kind of spaces where we can share in each other's languages, and obviously share those with people outside the community as well. So I think those are the kind of the two big things I'd really like to see in the future of the community.
Okay, thank you very much, Eddie. Let's just go straight over to Nanny now. I'm just wanting to hear what your thoughts are on those two questions we posed in the brief.
Awesome. Hello, Leah. Nice to see everyone. I've loved hearing all of the responses so far, because it gave me a lot to think about. Now I'm just like, wow, okay. So let's get this show on the road. I also forgot to mention my ethnic background. I am substantially Nigerian and I'm substantially Irish. I have a peppering of everything in between, from Arabic to Native American. And for me, growing up here in New Zealand, away from family in the early noughties, I was disconnected from everything and everyone, and all I knew was anime. Anime, cartoons, and being an absolute nerd. And that was my culture until I realized it wasn't a culture, and that's not an ethnicity. So, you know, the transition from, you know, like pop culture diva to, you know, wait a minute, I have an ethnicity, has been an awkward and clumsy one. And I am really happy and inspired here to so what inspires me is that transition for me from like pop culture street urchin diva to understanding my ethnicity was difficult and painful. I would like people who end up in that space to have an easier time than I did. Please, you know, like that when you don't know who you are, that transition and that awakening, it's left up to chance, more or less. And here I am 20 years later, and I'm like, okay, cool, we've just started training school. Like, where are we at, Black people? What do I need to know? And the answer is most of us don't know, you know, like most of us are blind. We were like, well, I don't know. What do you know? Like, and so those connections are so weak and janky that, like, I suppose, like, for me, like you know, in a futurescaping sense, like it's also what inspires me in terms of the African community as a whole, which is to see the people who need us most and who are most disconnected have a safe space to come through. And have some basic tools handed to them. You know, the first thing I want to be to like any young Black youth is, are your needs being met? Are you safe? Like, where's the roof over your head? Do you have food in your belly? We should collectively always be managing that baseline without question within our community. Like, they should just always, like, you know, like every Asian mart, you know, there's a connection there. There's a family line there. You can walk in. I want something like, give me a place where I can go and get some banana plantains, and then like I need this, right? Like let it be.
Yes,
let it be.
Yes, amen to that. Yes, it's good.
Right? Like I didn't know how to cook when I was a little street urchin running around, and then one day somebody introduced me to how to make jerk chicken, and now I can cook because I have the secret sauce. But it was a matter of chance.
And I don't want to leave it up to chance. I want these kids to know how to cook. I want them to know to be safe. I want them to know where they can go to get an education. And I think the big thing for me is that we're all so dislocated that it's really hard to find love or be in a dating scene as like a Black person in New Zealand. Are you kidding me? Like
Yes,
you are
yes.
right? You are a drop of chocolate in a milk pudding, and you're just like looking for the other drop of chocolate. Like it's hard, and you know you don't want those limited options. So futurescaping, like I want to see that. I want to see it be easier to feel normal, to be normal, to recover from bad times, to make sure that there is a procession of our elders teaching our youth that is not so antagonistic, but is really based on whose needs are needing to be met. And it's like not even emotional. It's just like a clean line from need, like who has to who has not, you know? So that's my take. That's my take. I don't need to talk forever.
Thank you, Nanny. Let's go straight on to Eva.
Me, for the first question, I like how Africa Week is such a huge reminder that there are loads of us here. I feel like it's easy to forget that when you are in a small town or not very engaged with the community. Like when I was growing up, me and my brother were the only Black kids in our school, which was very intense and unpleasant because New Zealand rural towns are like that. So yeah, like African events are like really nice reminders that there is a lot of us and we should be getting together more like this. Yeah, and it's always cool to see like all the photos of people, usually when it's in real life, like seeing all the photos of everyone getting together and looking cool. And also very grateful to be included in this because everything cool seems to be up in Auckland. So like the fact that we got an invite, even though we're isolated down south here, was really nice. In terms of future, I think one of the main problems there is right now is the big separations between different Black identities. So like there's like the beef between Ghanaians and Nigerians, which everyone knows about. And then there's also the South Africans versus everyone else. I feel like we should get over that and just be Black together and celebrate all of us at once, and stop forming cliques. And then what else is there? Also, like I like what everyone else has been saying about engaging young people. And that doesn't just, because like as a teenager, I definitely would have had a lot to say on forums like this. So I think it's really cool that this is opened up to Sahara, like that's really nice. But also I think like younger kids as well, like making these types of things child friendly, because then we can like develop a sense of pride really young, because it is hard to like grow up Black in New Zealand where people are very ignorant and it can be very isolating. So and then the last thing is, I think, so there's a lot of old conservative views in the African community, and a lot of it is like sort of brought on through very conservative Christianity, and it like the main consequence is homophobic views. So I think like queer Black kids like growing up in that environment where all of these views are like not really addressed or like tolerated, and you know I'm guilty of that, like letting the older people just they're just, that's just what they are, like just ignore it, blah blah. So I think like addressing those old views is really important for the future, and so that young Black kids growing up in New Zealand feel comfortable exploring their identities and like being open with older relatives and older people in the community as well. And then yeah, also we should do a road trip to Auckland, everyone, and couch surf, because everything cool in the Black community seems to be in Auckland, and I want an invite, please.
Yes, and I just want to say also, anyone here, you're welcome to when you come to Auckland. We have a space, Aotearoa Africa Foundation and the Somali Education and Development Trust. We have a space that's for you. It's an African space. There's coffee, food, and we open. We're going to welcome. So we're developing other programs as well, such as food, like fresh bread, like every Thursday. So these are services that we be providing, and especially that was good that you say that having food in your belly, in your tummy. That's really good. We are going to do that. So you all have whenever you come to Auckland, you must stop by Aotearoa Africa Foundation and the Somali Education.
It's okay. And after COVID, we're all coming up.
Whereabouts is it based in Auckland, Red?
So it's based in central Auckland, which is Mount Roscoe and Mount Albert, which is 1248 Dominion Road.
Ah, yes, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, next, Clintz, please. Give us your take on those two questions we put in the brief.
Sweet. I think African Week, it's like for us particularly, it's a week to celebrate identity and who we are. But then like we need to encourage like everyone that it's not just a week, because we live as African every single day. So just to have that week is important, but to also acknowledge that we are African every single day, no matter what, until like we're gone. But for me, I think it starts with our community, with us, I guess, to acknowledge ourselves and to be proud of who we are and who we came from, especially our roots. Because I remember growing up in Aotearoa, I was always the outsider. A lot of you guys could relate, like just being the outsider and not fitting in. And then also, like what Ray said, the social media, it portrays a lot of negative point of view about Africa, about the Black community. So when I went back home in 2012, it kind of changed the perspective how I see the world. Like people were just joyful for the little things they have, like just food, water, themselves. So just bringing those aspects into our community, like we don't need to have like the latest thing, but like just the small things that matters within ourselves. Future, I think mental health, just focus on that on priority, especially because I've been like in a wave journey with my mental health, so like putting that as a priority, not just pray about it all the time, but doing like little other things that help with your mental health. And I also agree with you, the LGBT community, that's a huge thing lately. Just having a support environment for those type of people that don't feel the platform to express themselves or to be who they are, because people are telling them to be who they want to be. And just have a space where we can just chill and have fun, I guess, and just talk around. Yeah, that's me. Just keep it short and simple.
Okay, thank you, Clintz. Let's go over to Octavius.
Hey. So everyone has said a lot of what I've been thinking about. But in terms of the first question, I do think it's important, especially in these times. Like I've been so depressed, like hearing about the UN COP, the environmental issues and stuff. A lot of the things that have been happening on the African continent, all the fires in California. So I recognize and understand that many of us are dealing with a lot of issues, both here in Aotearoa, but like globally, and then around our communities. And so for me, it is important for us to say that, yes, we will do that mahi, we will do that work, we will survive, but also to give give ourselves time to celebrate ourselves and each other, to love on and then have some moments of levity or light, some laughter. Not to say that we're forgetting anybody, or obscuring or silencing what's happening in our communities or even in our lives and in our own heads, but just saying too that we deserve and our ancestors have worked hard for us to be joyful and to be happy and to be proud and to have fun too. And that's a part of what it means to be Black as well. Because again, like many of you said, what part of that futurescaping that I'm thinking and dreaming and working towards is not just other people celebrating us and me, that we do it. That we teach ourselves and we don't wait for, again, I'm not waiting for Pakeha people, white people, Maori people to celebrate me if I don't celebrate me in my community. So I appreciate that that's what we've all gathered here, to talk through, to work at, and that in each of our own lives and whatever mahi that we're doing, that we are supporting, creating this community together. And yeah, just harping on everyone else, really a focus on the children and future generations, and saying how we can continue to improve their lives. And that because, our parents and our grandparents were saying the same things around being the only one, feeling like an outcast, having to work extra hard to educate people. And yet we're still saying the same thing, and it seems like we're all pretty young too. So that for me, that has meant something as well in terms of maybe thinking about, I don't know, different objectives or doing it differently. And talking to some of these elders in our community about like what happened, why do they feel, or why do we all feel like we seem to be in this this cyclical nature? Because I know a lot, again, coming from America, a lot of people in America who are African American and older were crying, and they thought that their work had been completed when Obama was elected. They were like, we're done, we've said, we've done all the work we need to do, so this is the future we're giving to our children. And again, they did see an uptake in aspirational levels for African American children, that they were doing better in school because they had to finally see a president. So then imagine what happened to them and to all of us when Donald Trump and all the stuff that happened when he was elected and he got it. I left the country. So you can tell the impact when it's like, when it's the opposite. And so I'm very keyed into that too. So in that sense too, for me, the work that I feel like I'm doing, and it's not to step on other people and the work that they feel like it's on their heart to do, is I have no interest in speaking to or educating Pakia and white people. I've been doing that most of my life. And just like slaves, I paid that burden. So then no longer am I interested in doing that type of work. What I am interested in is healing a lot of the ignorances and hurts within our own community. I've had the opportunity to travel different parts of America, in different parts of Africa, and then different countries that in Europe and here too within the global South. And I'm seeing that besides white people, a lot of us haven't been taught anything about each other in any real ways. Are seeing and learning how to deal with the complexity of who we are. Because I've noticed that when we do center like whiteness or government institutions in terms of getting them to recognize us or respect us, what they often ask is that we become one unified and blanketed over whole. We're all Black, we're all African. And yes, that's good for a policy that, feeds us or houses us or clothes us. But in terms of how we talk to each other, how we understand, that doesn't work. Having African American and British and Nigerian heritage, being from the Solomon Islands and being Muslim, but then being polyamorous, like those complexities are not talked about, are not understood, and we don't have mechanisms of language, of community building that centers on saying, we know that when you come to us, you're going to be different, but that's okay. We've taken a lot of what whiteness does and what to white people who are all very different as well, where we say, yeah, you can come to our African community, but be a refugee, be a Somali, speak Amharic, speak Swahili, wear this type of clothes, know how to cook plantains. And if we can, for me, I'm learning, and my life journey has been to let go of forcing other Black people to be like me, and learning to love and accept and work with them for who they are. And because I often say for myself and for all of us, we do that every day when we work with white people or with Indian people or with Chinese people. And so why are we so harsh, and why can't we do it with each other? And then, yeah, the last thing is just that, yeah, for my PhD and everything else, I've really been interested in too, is that a lot of the work has been on, ourselves and our happiness and joy, improving our economic situations and housing, things like that. And I agree with all those and work towards that. But I also say the environment is also a huge thing for me. I, sorry for taking so long, but I wanted to go to a historically Black college in the US, but I couldn't because they didn't have enough money. So I went to a white university. And that college that I wanted to go to, it was in New Orleans. And sadly, it kind of worked out for me because a year into my undergrad degree, my bachelor's, that college was underwater because of Hurricane Katrina. And so and the whole school flooded. And so all those Black students were displaced. And some even came up to the white college that I was at. And that really struck me. And then I went down to help too, and I saw how the government and other people weren't helping the Black community down there in New Orleans. So it was me and a group of other Christian students, because I was in a Christian organization. We all bussed down to New Orleans to clean up the Black neighborhood. And that really touched me because, you know, we were all different and we didn't have any skill, but we knew we needed to help each other. And so even though, you know, I have my issues with the church and with Black Christians, I've seen too that, you know, when the cause is big enough and when the hearts are open enough, you know, we can let go of differences and we don't ask each other what God you pray to and do you know this chapter of the Bible? We all just did the work. And, you know, events like that, hurricanes and fires and stuff, they continue to happen. And so I'm very interested in that too, and that we are securing for each other a future and understanding how to deal with this climate, because they already are having these narratives and talking about us as refugees of political distress for economic reasons, for being queer and LGBTQ. So you know, I imagine and I understand the impact that, you know, these climate displacements are going to have on us in the African community. And so are we building community for that too? Are we being life rafts and ready and prepared for that? Not just for those, but for ourselves too. Do we know where we're going to go if our, you know, something happens to our homes? All right, thank you. Sorry for
You're welcome. That's okay. I want to go straight over to Ali, and then Ernestina, and then Atalasa. Sahara.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah again. Ibrahim Ali originally from Somalia. Yeah, so Africa Week to me, and what it means is showing who I am and my identity, my heritage of and the home that I'm from. You know, like the mother and the father and the land, the beautiful land that I born in, grew up, cherished, loved. So it is really looking and remembering home in a Western society, in a place where sometimes you might told that you don't belong here, go back to where you're from, you Black, you this. Having a week that honors and we reflect, and we go back to history and we read and we show our identity alive in New Zealand, making sure that our children are respected and honored, and having that integrity, and be strong and be strongly proud of that color, skin, whatever like that we are. I think this is really an amazing thing to do, an amazing thing to show. So, and as a human being, you know, you are not known unless you make noise, unless you dance, unless you show, you know, make a noise. It is a great way to showcase, actually. So if we don't make that noise and sound and make the beats and the music and the entertainment, then we are not known, you know. So I think it's a good strategy in moving forward. And I want to also add to the point of the future, because of us paving the way for the future generation, and and doing what we're doing, and creating opportunities, creating days and weeks or months that we celebrate and honor. I think it's showing, it is giving me a hope and a bright future, that we focus, and that we predict. I think it's going to be bright. I think it's going to be great that Africans, having participating and contributing to this country and to this land, alongside with their brothers and sisters from Maoris and the people of the land. So having that participation, economically, socially, politically, contributing with the diverse or the beautiful color of Aotearoa is a hope and a bright future to dream of. So because of what we are creating and doing now, I think our young people will have that bright and in the future. So it's a start, and we dealt with a lot of issues, racism and discrimination, and the issue in which I was just listening the conversation of all of you who spoke. As a Somali from East Africa, as a Muslim from Africa, as a refugee person, you have so many layers in which people will tell you to let you down, and when some people, when they ask me, hey, where are you from? I say, I'm from Africa. Oh, but where in Africa? And then, oh, I thought you were thinking Africa is a continent. So, sorry, is a country. But when they try to know me as a Somali, oh, you're the pirate guy. The piracy or the terrorism and all these kind of negativities that they put, and then I have to talk and say, hey, no. We have people who are terrorists, but all Somalis are not terrorists, or all Muslims are not. We are a peaceful, loving people, blah blah. And then they would say, okay, so if you are a peaceful people, why you been fighting for over 30 years in Somalia? So the conversation then keep going. So it is, and what they only know is what they see us on the media. Honestly, it's not. They don't know us. They don't know who we are as a people. We are loving and caring, and people with hospitality, people who are welcoming. Honestly, they know what they are. We are not what they are showing us. So what I am suggesting and what the future is showing me, because of what the team, or all of us here, from Isaac, Octavius, Eva, Leah, Yulia, and Nani, Clench, all of us of African or Black people coming together. By the way, the origin of being Black is an African. So whether you identify yourself as a Black or you identify yourself as an African, you are just a brother or a sister to me. So you are my family. So whatever we're creating, I think we are the right people to tell our stories. The good side of our stories, not the negative side. And I think telling our stories is a way to change the narrative, the negative narrative, whether we face this online or offline. So to change the negative narrative is to tell our stories, and we don't want other people to tell our stories. We have to tell our stories, and that is where what I'm envisioning the future will be so bright. So thank you for the opportunity, Leah.
Cool beans. Hope everyone's still awake and energized throughout this conversation. First of all, I just have to say everyone's got so many great perspectives and views, and also I'm not going to repeat what everyone's been saying, but I just want to acknowledge what we can do to move forward. So the first question was, what inspired me? First of all, I'm half caste. In our Polynesian way, we say afakasi, similar to what we've all gone through. There are so many services and resources within the Polynesian community that are not lifted to the African community. And another thing is we've been stereotypically been saying that the white people, da 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 da. But to be completely honest, I'm going to be the elephant in the room as always. I actually think that some of the work that we're not doing is connecting with, I would say, the other races, and that we're putting it into perspective. To be completely honest, I actually love all races. I'm not going to say, and I do know that there have been some ways of how they've mistreated us, but I think it comes back to our structure as our African communities. In Auckland, there are so many resources that we have mistreated from organizations that are getting so much funding that we don't know where the money's going to. And in terms of what we're doing now, we're planting seeds for things to be inherited into education. So the inspiration came from, I would say, the lack of resource in terms of people that are implementing these things into what we're doing. For example, schools, sports, festivals. Yes, we had Africa Day in the years before. We even had pageants, African pageants. But then what happened to all of those resources? They got closed down due to greed and the resources. So I'm happily now doing it with a team and a family that is rejuvenating and just looking towards having value. And I love that each one of you had that same mindset of, we got to think of something that's just way different and do it. And we've been starting to do that here in Auckland, but we're kind of merging everyone together to come under the mindset of, it's not about status. It's just a matter of how we're putting and implementing all of our resources together. So I kind of disagree with blaming the white stereotypical view of how we look at the system as to, look how many Africans we got on this Zoom and how can we put that into perspective of making it happen. And just to add on to that as well, team, I'm super happy that we've come and merged together, because we've got like, oh my God, animators and like people that are doing different types of things down in Wellington, Rotorua and all of that. And I think it's just these conversations that we're not having a lot, is weekly Zooms, or even if it's not Africa Week. The seed of Africa Week just came from a lack of communication of what we're not doing. So I think the more we have these and connect to African radio stations, like I didn't even know Leah had this, you know, it's the networking, letting people know that we've got, you know, a professor or a musician that's doing massively good, and not looking at, I want to push him down, like that are already in the limelight to help with our African resources, but they won't do it because they're already signed to someone that's giving them that majority of money that they need. So I just think we got to do the work. I know it sounds like, I know, repetitive, because we keep saying that, but it's quite sad to say that the Africans have already made it. They're not coming down to that community level to actually uplift the whole ground resource so that we can all grow and lift. Our MP, the first African MP, like, oh my God, that's historical. He's already making moves, but we haven't structured our form here in order for him to give a plan. So we have so many organizations that are just African, 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 but what's the outcome? So we're doing that now in a nutshell. And in the future, I love what everyone was saying, and I hope to just have our own networks, and saying that we have our own radio station with this platform here, but having an actual network. I come from a strong Pacific background from Michael Kylan's side, and I'm trying to bring and implement and inherit that approach to the African side as well. And seeing how we see those massive Samoan fales, Tongan churches, da 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 da. When will we have our own African, how do I say it, office or place? And we've got that with AAF.
Community center. I have to say it. I'm just gonna jump in. Community center.
There we go. There we go. Leah is ripping my afro out as I love it. But these things. So I reckon, team, from here, I just hope to not just keep the words as words, but we do actually connect, like hit us up and let's just work together, even if it's online, like we're celebrating digitally. But we have so many Africans that have such great resource that we're not tapping into in terms of structure. So I think one of the things is structure, because I'm not perfect. Ali and Red know how many times I'm still doing that as well, because I come up with all these ideas and chuck it to them. But if we can merge it together, having African Wellingtonians, I don't know how to pronounce that, but down in South Island as well, but Auckland merging together. And yes, it is going to be a big job, but I think if we just enjoy it in a way that we can come with a better way of connecting with Africans would be so much better, and stop blaming and thinking that the whites and da-da-da are going to help us, when in fact, they've given us so much and we're taking so much from them, and we're not even utilizing the resources that they've given us. So I think we just need to kind of put our act and resource and merge that into the educational way of how we can push African stuff into schools, sports, and actually include us. When we say we don't feel included, I think we have an approach to people to put that into the system. So yeah, sorry if I do have a different way of coming across it, but I just feel like there's so many people that want our resource, like even the music scene, but we're just not working, I guess, in connection. So that's one of the reasons why we've started this. But I love you guys, and please let's have another of all of this where we stay connected. And I've taken notes from this conversation as well, and hopefully, Leah, we can keep bridging this together and making this network bigger, along with all your strong, amazing minds that are there. It's crazy amazing. But yeah, I'll do my end on part on how to bring this together, guys, and I hope we can meet in person. Madasi.
We're going to go to, thank you so much, Sahara, the youngest one in the room. Now this is really going to be impactful on you, all of this. If we get it right, hopefully you'll be benefiting from it somewhere down the line. So I want to hear what you've got to say.
Well, I've been thinking a lot since everyone has been saying everything. And I think personally, with Africa Week finally happening in 2021, it's helping me connect to my Zimbabwean heritage, my African heritage, because growing up in the South Island, at the very bottom of the South Island, it was very much like there was a lot of white people down in the South Island. There wasn't very much Black people. I mean, I had a few Black friends, some African friends, but it was like one or two maybe, and I had to travel to be able to go to African association meetings and stuff. But I think since I haven't really been able to connect with my African side, moving up to the North Island and having stuff like this meeting, this whole conversation, is really helping me connect to my African heritage and with everyone in our community. I don't really know if that's answering your question, but yeah. Also, what I would like to see in the future for us, I really think that we should be, well, the authorities, whatever, oh my god, they should be teaching us more about our African history in school. Yes. Or they have some African classes or some tutors that could actually teach young African children such as myself about their heritage and where they come from and the history of everything that's happened, because I'm really interested in what happened way back in like the 1700s with our cultures, and I really think it would be great for them to put something in the school system for Black children and African children, Jamaican children, just so they can actually be able to connect with their culture and their history and their ancestors and everything. Because personally, I don't really know much about my my heritage, because I didn't really grow up around with my father, as he's in Australia, and I have yet to ask my grandparents about what it was like in Africa, because I only got to go there once when I was 8, and I remember that I felt like myself when I got there. I finally felt at home, and I finally felt like I was happy. But yeah, I hope that answers your questions.
Fantastic, Sahara. I really love that. First of all, I want to start about this whole learning languages things in school, because you brought it up. Red brought up that you know, we should show people what they're, you know, about Africa, but you've also got this section of our community that doesn't know about Africa, and even people who are African heritage in this country that maybe not know much about their own background. And also Eddie said something about having a whole entire school of languages, which is even bigger and better. So I'd like you guys just to use the hand thing if you can. And so just so we don't get too much feedback. And what do you have to say about that? Eddie.
Yeah, I guess like it's one of the things that comes up, like so yes, one sec. So my partner's Sri Lankan Tamil, and I know like the Tamil community has language classes, and then so I was kind of doing those with her. So we were going to like language classes together, and then it became one of those things. I was like, yo, like it's one of the things that it's just like a really great way, and it was odd because for me, so I'm 23, 6'5", in a class of 5-year-olds. And it's one of those things that was, and it's that it was such a surreal experience, but it's one of those things of saying like, well, there's very clearly like a space, and I've definitely heard like a lot of people talk about, I guess, and especially kids who've grown up here, talk about the disconnection from language, where like my family, I can't speak patois, no, like a couple of mates can't speak Shona, all that sort of thing. So it's definitely like this space is there, and I guess there's so many African languages that like you almost do need a school. You almost need those spaces, like a space to go through and then provide that basis and to I guess kind of give everybody a kind of seat at the table. But I guess again that kind of starts with someone putting their hand up and saying, oh, I can keen to do this, or is anyone keen to start up? I don't know, start somewhere, whether it's Swahili and trying to get like an African lingua franca here, or like try to get like a common African language across. But yeah, it's just one of the things I think there's space for, and I think it is good because it's a good way to bring us together as a community.
Go ahead, Nanny.
Easy. I don't have a lot to say. It's just so I speak a whole bunch of different languages. None of them are African. I speak French, which helps. But I do speak Japanese because I'm a weeb. And one of the things is that Japanese language has a word for words that are intrinsic to a culture that do not translate well because they represent something in like a lexical gap that is from that culture. Even more than just learning the full language of your home country, knowing that there are words that exist in Xhosa, like that belong to you and will make the world make sense, that to me is big. And I would love to see, I'd love to see people helping each other know these words and these concepts, like Anansi, the spider, the, very old African, thing, but it doesn't exist in English, etc. So yeah, just those word concepts, those philosophical words, would really love access to all of that. Just right
in
away.
regards to your suggestion, Eddie, I was just thinking, are we able from this conversation to create some type of content reaching out to possible African lecturers, or probably no one around the Wellington or Auckland area, to take on some online classes, just even after Africa Week, where we could collaborate, Wellington and Auckland, as an initiative to start it. It could just be like an online type of thing where we can share it, like just a suggestion or an idea that we could push forward.
Eddie, do you want to answer that?
Sorry, I was just jotting it down as notes. Yeah, I think that's something. Yeah, definitely love to get in touch about, and yeah, that'd be cool to try and develop that. So yeah.
We've got Ibrahim. You've got your hand up.
I think if people want to keep any human being wants to keep their identity, I think the language is the first identity someone to claim to be. So we, for example, the Aotearoa Africa Foundation, along with the Somali community in that space, we do a homework support in the weekend for the African young children going to schools. And one of these, one of the days, Saturday, we run for the homework, and Sunday we just run a Somali session for the Somali children. So it is not easy, honestly, like, because the Africans you're talking about is 54 countries. So which language and how much you can teach about. And so as an organization, it's not easy, but if we can empower the community leaders, because each community group, they can organize themselves and teach. If they are from Ethiopia, they can teach their own children, maybe we can facilitate something like that, like each community group to do their own sessions to teach the kids. And because we're talking about the long term of our people in New Zealand, like I have children here, they don't speak Somali, they just speak English. And me and their mom, we confused because English is not my first language. So they speak good English more than I do. So sometimes we struggle even to understand each other. So I have to try to communicate them and learn their English, because I don't want to lose that communication. But I think there are other ways to brainstorm ourselves and put some strategies, programs in place. But now what we were talking about, and the reason we're doing Africa Week, is just to have that present for us. We cannot do everything, but at least if we can say, hey, we have this, we came from that country, so this showcase. So, but it is up to the individual African countries and communities how they want to look for the future. So that's what I would say. Thanks.
Well, one thing, kind of like what Ibrahim was saying, is like, people are so busy now at just strapped with resources. So we don't have to like recreate or invent the wheel in terms of that. And a lot of communities have already on YouTube and other places, even apps, and Duolingo has Swahili. So if we can build and just gather a hub of resources that are already available, animated videos, there's animated videos in Xhosa and Igbo and Hausa, available for free. And if not for free, we can contact. I was part of Peace Corps, and I remember a lot of the countries in Africa that Peace Corps is available. They give you a booklet of how to learn language quite easy, like everything's phonetic, and we can reach out to those people to give us those resources, so we can build up, and just like we're doing now. So we might not be able to find or have a teacher, because thinking of rural communities too that may not have a teacher or a class, that we can build it online and say, like, okay, we're all going to do Duolingo, and we're going to practice this together, come every Friday and go over this vocabulary and practice these sentences. And we can make it intergenerational, like Ibrahim was saying too. So there's not just the young people are those of us who are looking to learn an African language, but for those who are in our communities who want to practice English. So, you know, we respond in the language that they know and they respond in English and we help correct each other. I think that's the way as well.
Ernestina, your hand's up.
It's always up. But yeah, I totally agree. And I think Octavius and Ali and Eddie, I get where you all are coming from. And I think we need to kind of have like a, I don't know, a document or a PDF or something to put together that could be shared to everyone. So yeah, you're totally right, everyone. Like we do need to kind of put this idea into perspective and find a way, if we can't do, you know, face-to-face conversations about the language, the different types of languages, at least we can find the resource to put it together and share that out to different types of areas around educational, sports, or even extracurricular areas. So yeah, it's good that we've started the conversation. I think we can carry that on.
Nanny.
Just one last thing. I think it's worth really accepting that, especially with the youth, like when you get older, you want this information and it's hard to find. But when you're really young, you need Taylor Swift's legs, you need Kim K's legs on this, or you do not care, right? Like you don't. And I really think it's worth accepting that there's another thing that I would like to add to like this conversation and the previous one, which is make it sexy, ladies and gentlemen. You must attract the youth and you must speak their language in order to bring them to you. Because if you have to go to them, you will be running and you are older than them and your hips are out. So like, I'm just putting this out there. If we want them to learn, if you wanted me to learn as a youth, you would have had to pitch it to me. Good marketing would have gone a long way.
Ibrahim.
Oh, I'm really liking the conversation, and I'm wondering, because I'm looking, the time is 8:30. If we could maybe have kind of ongoing discussions, and then we frame or structure a strategy around moving forward, or what we can do together and how we can support each other. And there is a plenty of other issues to talk about. Your language is one of them, and especially I'm looking honestly, and that is where I'm passionate about my people, and I like having that pride, you know, flourish in New Zealand, and people embracing it. So yes, the language, we can empower the ethnic groups of each Africans, because, for example, and you know, within one country they speak different dialect and different language, so it is very, very, very hard. But if we can target the Ethiopian leaders and say, hey, what do you need to teach your people your language? What resources do you need? And if we can find the resources, the funding or something, then we can help them in that way and say, hey, just if you need a space, Leah, you were talking about the community center for African people. So maybe that community center could cater such programs to be run. But that's aside, but we're talking about our young people and the other societal issues. The young people being in correctional facilities or in prison, and when they are, you know, coming back, or when they are out of jail, if we can run something for them to, you know, other programs, because we're looking at the other groups like the Indians or the Chinese, that they have spaces available to them, and when someone, it is really frustrating when a police officer calls you and say, hey, we have this person on a probation and we wanted them to be out, but they're looking for a space or accommodation and you don't have it. So, and work and income or you know, like private rentals are not accepting person or someone coming from a criminal background. So, but if we can have how accommodation is available only by Africans, and but I don't know what we can, but if we can work on things that we can structure, that is something we can think of. The other thing is the employment issues, you know, the mental well-being for African people, and those who are new to the country, the refugee new arrivals need to settle successfully in New Zealand, which will take time, you know, like, but now because of Red Cross and other groups are saying they help, but there is a lot of struggle and challenges they face. So if we've been here for a while, like, I mean, the African is, Leah, you were saying you're born here. But I think for example, the Indians, they came when the white people came here, you know, like, so they are well established, and they are politically in there. They have ministries or MPs. We have only the first African MB this time. So we want to be there. We want to sit at the decision table, making table. So, but for us to be there, I think we have to structure a pathway for our Africans and uplift each other. If you are passionate about politics, then how can we campaign with you? You know, how can, if you are passionate about business and you know, income generating, how can we build the EU flourish and profit? And so there are different discussions, I think, that we need to keep talking about. And I'm so happy to see you all today. And I was, I'm sorry, I need to shut up, but this is so amazing. So amazing. I'm don't feel like I'm emotional to see you guys, and I'm so happy.
Another thing that came up when you were talking, when you were answering the questions and stuff like that, is the topic of conservative attitudes towards I'd like LGBTQ. To direct the question, actually. I'd like to hear from Isaac and Eva on this one, I think. Start with you, Eva.
Yeah, so like, I'm queer, and I don't think I'm the only one in this group here. And I find that, like, when it comes to engaging with African communities, that is a big hurdle for me, because I'm like, okay, are they going to try convert me because, like, of religious beliefs that mean that they're against, you know, queerness, or, you know, transgenders or non-binary genders? Like, it's just not really. I just keep my identity to myself usually when I'm in African circles because of that, which isn't great, and I'd like to stop doing that, because, yeah, I don't know. So I feel like it needs to be addressed. I'm not really sure what the best way of going about that is, because I think there's, like, people are very, very stubborn when it comes to homophobia and transphobia, especially when there is religious reasons behind it. I don't know, does anyone have any ideas?
Isaac, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I probably couldn't add too much to that. I myself am straight, and I haven't really had many sort of, you know, there's not a lot going on in Blenheim period, so there's not really much, well, at least there's not much that I'm aware of to really get involved with. But yeah, I do agree with everything that's said, and I think that we're in this age where we have the width and the breadth of human history, or as much we have as, you know, we know the most about human history than we ever has as a species, due to the internet and due to the multiple sources, and also this slowly but surely, and needs to keep momentum, but this gradual lack of Eurocentric history teaching, or, you know, a slow decline, is allowing us to look at ourselves in a much more nuanced and a nuanced way. And I think religion's one of those things that I think we've kind of been through this kind of fad of, like, atheism is the way to go, you know, if you're atheist, you're smarter, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually like, well, no, there was a reason why for thousands of years people followed religion, and it wasn't just fairy tales. There was something to it. There is a logic behind it, and we can have a relationship. Even if you're not religious today, you can still look back at the past and understand why they believed this. And I think that understanding the relationship we have with religion today is something that is very important, because it is, you know, we're no longer using it as, you know, the ties between religion and state are no longer as intertwined, or they're becoming less and less intertwined, which, you know, allows us to you know, sort of let religion take care of the soul and let politicians deal with politics. Yeah.
I've got Nanny. You've got your hand up.
So I don't know, like Eddie, I don't know if this is too soon to mention, but me and him had a phone call literally just a couple hours ago about LGBTQ plus in the Black community and conservatism and facing prejudice just constantly. I myself am also queer. I have had a plethora of experiences, of which I'm ashamed of very few of them. And like, I think that we wanted to do an episode where we got as many Black members of the LGBTQ community together in a conversation to not even say, you know, like not to necessarily tell people what it is, but just to say, I am here. I have had these experiences. I'm happy with them, or I feel X about them. You cannot change my past, and I exist. And, you know, to sort of share and make a sort of little safe bubble where we can be seen. So if you are in this group and you'd like to contact Eddie, because I'm terrible at communications online about that, and you'd like to be involved, please, I'm putting your hand up for you, Eddie, unless you want to like.
Yep. Directed also me. Directed also me.
Directed to Eddie. And then like if you're queer, the power of strength in numbers and power of representation, because it's hard out here when you think you're alone. That's all I wanted to say.
Ernestina, you've got your hand up.
Yes, ladies and gents. So I've got a few that are tuning into the conversation right now. And first of all, Eva, I just have to say, sis, you are so not alone. And I just love your courageousness, and we're all for it. The Polynesian community, we go hard at these types of issues. And that's why I'm saying the visibility, Atalasa Sales is tuning in right now as well. Visibility is a big thing. And I think imagery in educational systems and what we do in sports as well. We don't see any of our faces, especially from the Black community, LGBTQ community, that are out there. We don't have posters. We don't have the education that it's shared across through the schools. And the Polynesian, I'm just going to use this as an example because it was successful, and I know it can be successful with our Black community. They kept pushing and pushing, and I think we need to do that as well. The exclusion of what we're seeing again with our Black community, that we're saying there's not enough. We have so many voices. If we can march at Auckland City with 200, there were thousands of people. We didn't utilize the march to bring upon what other issues that we're going through as well. We're marching for something that was happening in America. Yes, I get that. I got that. But we didn't utilize that time that thousands of Africans were there to bring upon these types of issues ever. And also Nani and Isaac and Eddie that we're all saying. So I think visibility and what's happening right now is we're not seeing posters. We're not seeing stories. We're not seeing enough online content as well that we need to, because could you not, on the Polynesian side, we have heaps, loads of people that have stories and all of that from that side. So ever we will make it happen and we will push it. I think we just need to bring this into place, into perspective of how we're going to do it, how we're going to set posters, how we're going to set the scene, how we're going to set your story ever, how we're going to share it to different platforms, how we're going to connect it to radio stations to get this out there. Because yes, we've got the BlackHouse as a platform. We've got organizations on Facebook and online sharing it, but we're not doing enough. Are we bringing this out? Are we having a conversation outside and saying, hey, everyone, I'm Black. And you know what? I'm straight, I'm gay, I'm you know, I'm trans, I'm da-da-da. Because on the Polynesian side, they have got the meanest advocates doing this right now, and they're in front of MPs saying this, and I think we're keeping it safe. So Eva, we are behind you, sis, and also Nani, and you know, within our community that are, you know, we have different sexes, it's fine, man, we still vibe, but I think we just don't have the support to advocate for our sisters like Eva and Nani that don't have that. So I think from this conversation, fam, that we need to keep pushing it and giving our ideas, yes, to Eddie, and also from our Auckland base here, how we're going to put this into our plan to make sure that there's no exclusion of these types of stories, because this is the same thing that happened with the Polynesian community, and now they are actually at the forefront of things. So I reckon it can happen, Eva. It's just how we're going to put that in
Like, is it going to be through posters? Is it going to be like LGBTQ Day or something? Or from the Black community, is it going to be like Tuesday for LGBTQ? So it's a weekly type of segment that we can actually put conversations. People be like, whoa, you know, that's Eva, that's Nani. We didn't know that. They're, you know, they're proud. They're like part of the community. And I think that's how we can make it maintain, like we can maintain the conversations.
Octavius, you've had your hand up for a bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Red has had his hand up too. I don't know if he wanted to go first.
Okay, Red. Yeah, go ahead, Red.
Yeah, Leah couldn't see my hand. It's been up for like the past hour, and yeah, sorry, I was just trying to juggling between two meetings. So I feel like this issue, I know we are in the mood of celebration, but it's there has to be an awareness. We have to understand that within New Zealand, it's accepted, but it's within particular groups, certain communities, right? So how do we debunk that? The same as mental health, and we know mental health within African community, it's also an issue, right? So there has to be a campaign in a similar way as mental health, campaign awareness, post, and in different languages, so people can understand this issue within their language, the particular languages. So we will be, AF will also be running a mental health campaign coming as well. And I think if we can also take this issue further within cultural, because the mental health will be done culturally appropriate within African context, images and languages, not in the Western way. But what I wanted to talk about was, the organized migration of African in New Zealand. What I've learned this week actually happened since the 1970s. I think Leah can correct me on that.
1960.
1960s. So, but till today, we still have to tick a box called others in papers. So that's, I think, when I found that like this week, I was questioning, since the 1960s, are you kidding me? And we are still not mentioned in paper. There's no the box of Africans, the others. So that's where I think there's something that needs to be done. And what I forgot to mention is the future. What I see is the future. Like, I want to see a New Zealand where Africans, as African, I'm protected from racial discrimination, from racial abuse, where an average New Zealander to abuse me racially has to know or to think twice that it's not accepted, So within institutions, within laws, something that as minority groups, we have to be protected from racial abuse. That's the what I see as the future in New Zealand. And if we can find a way to create it, a celebration by visibility, as Tina was mentioning, this contribute to it. And if we can work together in hands to do more in the future and coming like this sort of activity, everyone embraces it. Like when we're doing this sort of campaign, Africa Week, mental health, and then LGBTQ awareness within every ethnic groups, because there's still this stereotype, it's still taboo to talk about, even mental health. It's taboo, your uncles won't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it, The aunties, They don't want to talk about it, the other generation. So we have to break that barrier through campaign awareness and culturally, linguistically appropriate.
Who else wants to talk on this? Nanny, your hand's still up.
I wrote down a couple of different things from listening to other people talk. I'm just taking in so much beautiful African intelligence. I am overwhelmed and in love. I really love this talk of actionables. We are talking about so many good topics. I don't want to just run them past them. I'm hoping somebody's taking the minutes and we can apply some actionables to them. I really want, one of the things that really was important to me in exactly what you were saying, Leah, before, It was, I, in my youth, had to go to the Citizens Advice Bureau all the time. If you had told me there was a Black Citizens Advice Bureau, they never would have seen me. And there would have been so much, like half the problem is answering questions that needed to be asked. So having those resources available to people, usually the first thing you feel is something's wrong, who do I go to? And when you're Black, the answer is always, sometimes, very often, I don't know. So just like somebody to bridge that gap. If you just came out of prison, you went to the Black Citizens Advice Bureau and somebody hooked you up. And then I think the last thing was, I'm not really sure how to pronounce your name correctly, but Ernestina, like all of the things you were raising about like not talking about white people and just being like, no, there's resources available to us through the government. I am less shy about talking about being queer than I am about my feelings on guys. It doesn't matter. They don't matter anymore. They're not literally holding us our head underwater. Like, we have to get together and organize ourselves and get our focus off of them and get it onto us. And I'm really pleased that you would just bring that up, because I have found in circles when I'm like, it's not about white people anymore, and slavery is just like, it is relevant to our mental health history, but we are not currently in shackles. We have access to Prada. Let's just pull up our bootstraps and make it happen. So I just wanted to say thank you for that as well. But I'm going to try and shut up because I talk a lot. I just wanted to say thank you. And also, yeah, actionables mean everything. We take the minutes, we do some actions, we get people who have questions aligned with people who have answers. And that's the thing that I really wanted to snap down on.
Okay, we're heading up to 10 minutes too. So I'd like to get some last words from everybody about anything that we've discussed tonight, actually.
Yes.
I'd like to start. Can I start with Sahara? Because Sahara's been sitting and watching quite patiently and, you know, listening, surely taking it all in. Come on, Sahara. I know you've got some stuff in there that's going to be really good.
Had a thought about the African community in Auckland. We could do like, you know how we have traditional dances in some cultures? We could have like kind of like competitions for that up in Auckland or wherever we can have it, and you know, let people express their cultures, because I know we have kapaka, we have siva, we have a lot of Polynesian stuff, but we don't really have anything for African cultures and our dancing and everything. I don't think I'm wording this correctly, but
it'll be good for young people to see their culture displayed, like how they see the Polynesian and the kapahaka, like, because a lot, like ones like Hara that grew up excluded.
Yeah. Red, tell us what you think.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. It's a celebration. I know we discussed very important topic and also touchy and tense as well, but we should not stay away from the theme of this event. So from the purpose of this event is bringing us together and celebrating. So we want to celebrate, and I'd like to invite anyone in here to make a short video, just saying where they are from, their name and where they come from, and what does Africa means to them in New Zealand. And they can send it to us. We'll be sharing it on our Facebook throughout the week and throughout the month as well. It will be good also to see you at the physical opening event. If we go on level 1, we want to do the official launch of it, or Africa Week, because it's a first, and they open the platform for the remaining years. Thank you so much. And Ibrahim Ali also from the Somali Education Development Trust. And yes.
Ibrahim.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Cool. No, I was just, I raised my hand in the issue of LGBTQI+, and Yeah, I'm straight. I'm an African. I'm Muslim. I am. I am open to every other discussion. I like to listen and hear what other people's stories are. But what I sometimes confuse is when people from of that community not accepting to educate others of, like when you say queer, my sister, I did not understood. Really, I don't know. I have to Google to find what that means. Last year, I met a lady who told me she was a non-binary binary thing, and I did not know what that means. And I was asking her, so I never heard of in my life. So what we learning, there is new things coming up, people having different identities of themselves, but educate us, let us know what this means, then we can be free to give you whatever we think, what we think is about. But I don't want to also be, people are judged, like some gay people are not having me straight Muslim, strong of what I believe and who I am. And then they are like, you accepting us, why do you want me to accept you? If you feel like be proud of who you are, you don't need my acceptance. Whether I don't accept you or don't accept you, why you worry about? But if there is, in terms of discussion, I'm open to personally, for example, and I'm open even, in any way or form to hear and learn. And about the evolving thing, yes, I see. There is a Somali gay guy who came out this year. And me and him, we had a meeting, I think Africa Day or something. Sooner he announced he came out, he blocked me, and I did not know that. But I was trying to help as an African Somali leader. He is Somali, I'm Somali. I am not pushing him away. I want to welcome him to the community and support him if he wants. But he made that judgment that we're not welcoming him. So it was his problem, not our problem. So that also misconceptions or misinforming others. You don't need to worry or scare. And I don't want my African people to suffer with mental issues if they are from that community. Just you chose that identity, be proud of. And if you need help, ask for help, come to us. But it is a matter of you, not to worry of others. Whether we accept you or don't, you don't have to worry. Just be who you are.
Eva, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so I just say that, so you've said that you respect people and people's identities and stuff, but if you grow up when lots of people from the African community have been outspoken about not accepting identities based on the Bible or based on religious reasons, it's not very opening and it doesn't feel very safe to come out because because they don't understand it, which means that you would have to donate all of your time and energy to try and educate them. And if you have mental health issues or it's already hard growing up Black in New Zealand, so having gayness on top of that, it's a lot. And then giving all that energy to educate people who might not listen can be very exhausting. I'm sure there are a lot of African people that are willing to learn and listen. But
Eva, sorry, what do you mean safety? Why are you not feeling safe if you come to straight people of Africans?
Well, because the most common response is, oh, you haven't heard of the Bible, or you haven't heard this, and I'm going to try change you, and you don't need to choose this lifestyle, choose this identity. There is a lot of misunderstanding that fuels that. But personally, I don't have the energy to debate and educate people who don't agree with my identity. And I don't think it's my responsibility a lot of the time. So I think Octavius was saying before, which like I'm fully on that. Like I'm not willing to educate white people on racism anymore. You know, like all the resources are out there on the internet. So I'm no longer giving my time and energy to that. They have all the resources available. So I'm not going to like use up my mental health to, you know, teach them to respect me. And it's the same for sexuality. Like if someone has a stubborn view and doesn't off the bat respect me for who I am, then I'm not going to bother. And unfortunately, that does mean, you know, potentially not having relationships with people from the Black community, which is, you know, I often feel more comfortable in like queer white spaces than Black spaces, which is like, you know, so I can either pick to be accepted based on my race or sexuality, and like there's not really a like even ground right now. So
yeah, it sounds like well, actually, I'm not even going to say anything. Octavius, you had your hand up, so I'll go over to you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for this discussion. This part at the end, this to me should be the whole discussion, only because like since I've gotten to New Zealand, I've been asked within our community, but then also by white people, do this, do that, do this work, build this community center, do all this, like create this video, speak to the media. And I am, right? So I'm writing for Black Creators of Aotearoa. I've spoken to the ministry about conversion therapy. I'm working with the ministry now on a social cohesion group, working with white people and Indians and older people. But I'm also listening, and I'm seeing, just like I've seen in other, that I understand the push to do a lot of things and create all these schools and community groups and services, but we need to literally sit down together and figure out our shit, you know, excuse my language, but we have a lot of shit in our community, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma. And we need to bring some spiritual practices in here and like clean out our slates, clean out our karmas, clean out, because we're bringing a lot to each other and we don't, and none, you know, and we have to figure that out before we can do anything, before we can be cohesive. Because some people aren't willing to and can't do the work. I'm queer. I'm the queer lead of Black Creators of Aotearoa. So I've taken up the mantle to do a lot of that educating and have before. So I appreciate what you had to say, Ibrahim, and Eva too. And I'm with you both. And I could work or talk with you as well. I wrote an article yesterday about me and queerness and my gay uncle for Black Creatives of Aotearoa. I encourage you to go read it, and if you can't, I can send it to you. But to not end on a bad note, talking about we got shit to do and we got traumatized, an action, like an actionable is, and again, why, you know, more a listener than an actor, because I wait for the moment, is I was talking with ministry people last week, and they ran to me talking about African youth are the highest rates of unvaccinated youth. And why is that? And what did I have to say? And can I give them any information or tell them why? And how could they go into our communities and tell our children to vaccinate? And I was like, wait, hold up. One, I don't represent them. Two, I question the statistics, and I question that, again, the negative. And I told them too, you can't just keep coming to us and asking us to speak to quote unquote and treat us as a problem and present us as a problem in the media and even to ourselves, saying, well, you know, you're African American, you're closer to us as white. Why are your African brothers and sisters not doing this or that? Like, I don't play those games. But what they told me when I inquired more, and so that's from the Ministry of Ethnic Communities, is that they would work with African leaders or African community members. They just don't know any, and that if I knew any, to connect them both. So, you know, for anyone in this group or anyone that you know, if you do, you know, besides protesting, there are open doors that we can walk through and talk with in terms of policy. I'm on a policy creation team now. So if you do have things, let me know. If you do want to talk to someone in the ministry, let me know. I can try to make those connections for you. I'm not promising anything, but I'm just saying that I can at least invite all of us to the table as well. Thank you.
Starting dialogues. And I think we've gone past our 9 o'clock closer. But I just want to say thank you very much to everybody that's come in. I know you've all got other things that you've got to do and go off to. I'm sure this is the beginning of something bigger and better. It's your turn now, you young people, to actually do some of the hard yards, and this is part of it, I guess. So, Red, this is your party. We're just hosting it for you. So what's the deal? What's the deal?
Sorry, say it again.
We're coming to the end. So
we're coming to the end. Yeah, I think thank you everyone. It's all us together, Aotearoa Africa Foundation and the Somali Education and Development Trust. It will be great to have this kind of gathering because it gives us not only keeps us together, because then we can know what's happening, the issues in Wellington and in Auckland and among us as well. So we build this connection and this relationship as well. So we support each other's work and whatever issues, I think as organizations and individuals as well, we can all push it forward to see change. I think what we want to see is the improvement, right? Like for future generation, the empowerment, to empower the youth in that aspect as well. And we can only do it together. We can do it together when we put hands together, a project where we all embrace and share it together. So yeah, we'll love to have a videos of you just introducing yourselves and saying where you're from and which village you come from, if you know the village, and also what does Africa means to you, so we can be able to share it during the week and throughout our content as well during the weekend. If you want to help also, you within your capacity, your profession, please join and help us together to build a strong, successful and respected community in Aotearoa in New Zealand. And I think it's possible even within empowering with businesses, you know, creativity and everything that you mentioned that you'd like to see, you know, a center, a channel, a TV, broadcasting, representation, visibility, and this contributes to visibility, you know, showing ourselves out there, making ourselves known, especially knowing that the first organized migration to New Zealand was in 1960. So it means the gap is so large there, you know. Growing up here, like when I came to New Zealand, I went to Palmerston North, and Palmerston North, it's a countryside, you know. We have the universities, which is good, and that's the reason why we were resettled there, because my parents say, oh, we want to go to a place where the kids can have a future, you know, where they're good university, they can get educated and learn. So we went to Palmerston North. So thank you all again, everyone, for embracing Africa Week. It's your week. Be proud of it, for you to celebrate with pride. Go share, celebrate with joy, rejoice, share your content, your language, where you come from, please. Yeah, a sense, I'm proud of it, having this. So I can share my language. There will be content we'll be sharing throughout the week. There you see there's a video where I'm speaking in my language. I'm telling my story, what does Africa means to me. You know, being in Africa, I'm already, spoiler alert, I'm giving you too much on that video, but go watch it. Growing up in the Congo, being born in the Congo and lived by the Congo River, where I could see the other city of Kinshasa. At night, I'll go fishing with my granddad. And first time I got electrocuted by this beautiful goldfish. First time I discovered there was a fish in Africa. Was a place of learning for me, where I learned a lot of things. So yes, thank you so much. And yes, Africa Week is here. Happy Africa Week to you all, and happy Africa Week to New Zealand and to the wider public of New Zealand. Thank you.
Clint, you've come back into the room. So you got anything to say on the heading out? Because we're coming to a close. We're just going on 9:10, but we can go through a few more people if they've got something, and Eddie's got a little surprise at the end.
I don't have much to say. Everyone has covered a lot of things in this topic. For me, like a big issue for me personally would be like identity crisis. Like I don't know if you guys went through it. I definitely went through my identity crisis heavily, not knowing where I belong, which identity to follow. Society says this, but then your identity there. So where do you like fit in between? And navigating through that, which I suffer through a lot. But I've gone better throughout the years and acknowledging myself. And like, who is it? Is it Octavius? He said it start with our community and then we go out. So if we start with ourselves and encourage and help each other and then tackle
Isaac,
the world.
anything on the way out?
Other than, thank you all for having me, and like thanks for organizing this, and thanks for inviting me and giving me a chance to speak. Other than that, I just hope to see more of this. And if I guess the only tangible skill I can offer is if anyone ever wants to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons, hit me up. It's not just for white people. It's not. Don't let them have it. Don't let them keep it all to themselves. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Isaac, contact me. I play D&D and I've been doing it since I was 11.
Sweet. Yeah, I got that vibe from you. Yeah.
Game.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our second BlackHouse online conversations series. I'd like to end this with just basically really appreciate everybody coming into the room and sharing their ideas and thoughts and what inspires them about Africa Week. And we should have more Africa Weeks. And Eddie says like months. We should have Africa months. We should have Black holidays. We should celebrate the first Africans coming here in 1960. There's so many things we could be doing, right? But I think it starts with the hard yards, which is the talking and the communicating and having the dialogue and getting everything off the ground. And as Clint said, working from the inside out and cleaning up our backyards and all the other things and addressing the issues in our communities. And this is where you start. So I think for tonight, I'd like to say good night to everybody. And Eddie, I think you can take us away with a bit of a jingle.
Oh yes, I get to do my radio outro. All right, so this has been the BlackHouse. This isn't 106.1 FM. This is the internet. And for all y'all, thank you for coming along, and we'll see you at the next chat. Peace.